colony.
The village would have been demolished and cleared, and they would have created a huge site with interlocking spaces, barricades, other turrets, and circular curtain walls sweeping over a vast area, creating no less than a kind of SS Vatican.
It was the great northern tower that would become the focus of Himmler's plans to make Wewelsburg an SS occult center. At the base of the tower, Himmler built a crypt. According to historians, it was a temple to honor the dead SS leaders. The vaulted ceiling created an eerie acoustic, and in the middle of the well would have burned a kind of holy fire. Along the edges of the crypt were 12 pedestals, upon which would have stood urns, waiting to contain the ashes of deceased generals.
What would happen is the SS always had to have the 13 leadership. And consequently, when an SS general died, he was ritually cremated, his ashes were placed, and then his place was taken by a new general.
In one legend, King Arthur gathered the 12 most chivalrous knights in a great hall. In Himmler's version, he created the Hall of SS Supreme Leaders in a room above the crypt. Here he would meet with his 12 highest-ranking SS officers. A large sun wheel adorned the floor. This radial pattern was made up of symbols from the ancient Nordic alphabet. Himmler tried to create a replica of the Grail Chapel from the Arthurian legend. A mystical chalice, the Grail was said to have contained sacred blood.
Himmler saw the Grail as an object of immense esoteric or occult power, and he believed that if he possessed this physical object, that the war would be won with great ease.
To Himmler, the sacred blood of the Grail legend was pure Aryan blood. He believed it possessed a magical quality. His closest advisor on Grail lore was archaeologist Otto Rahn. Also obsessed with the Grail legend, Rahn believed it was hidden in the caves of southern France. Himmler was drawn to Rahn's knowledge of the occult and his lifelong pursuit of the Grail. Once in Himmler's inner circle at Wewelsburg, Rahn would continue his quest for the Holy Grail, only now as a knight of the Nazi Party. Himmler personally funded Rahn's expeditions, several of which concentrated on the area around Montségur in southern France. There stood the site of the great fortress of the Cathars, the heretical sect accused of devil worship and wiped out by the church in the 13th century.
And there was a very strong tradition, as indeed there still is, that the Cathars had possessed the secret of the Grail, and that just before the castle of Montségur fell, the 3 knights of the Cathar order escaped over the walls and took something with them, something of great value. Tradition later said that this was the Grail, or that it was the secret of the Grail, and that they hid it in the whole warren of caves.
Rahn's expeditions also took place in Germany. A letter on file from Rahn to SS headquarters suggests that he believed he was close to realizing his lifelong dream. To bring my work to a successful conclusion, I must personally inspect the sites. First, I have to go to the Wildenberg ruins the German castle of the Holy Grail, there are currently digs underway. Heil Hitler. But Rahn was never able to secure the ultimate prize, the sacred chalice itself. In 1939, Otto Rahn mysteriously resigned from the SS. Many believed Himmler issued orders to have Rahn killed once it was clear his quest for the Grail had failed. Two months later, he was found dead in the Austrian Alps. The cause of his death remains unexplained. In his continued quest to prove the superiority of the Aryan race, Himmler created a research institute called the Ancestral Heritage Organization. In addition to conducting medical experiments on human beings and checking bloodlines to ensure racial purity, the organization's mission was to resurrect and reinterpret occult practices, ancient Germanic myths, and pagan lore. This Nazi film shows one such ritual, young girls dancing around the Nordic pagan symbol of war and divine order. To control all occult knowledge, Himmler confiscated the libraries and artifacts of any occult society that was not associated with him. This included secret societies such as the Freemasons, who the Nazis believed were an occult organization created by the Jews to conspire against the Germanic people. While Himmler suppressed certain occultists, he also advanced the careers of others, such as Karl Maria Willigut. In Willigut, Himmler believed he'd found the key to popularizing the ancient pagan tradition in modern Germany. The mystic became a high-ranking SS officer and one of Himmler's prized possessions.
Well, the interesting thing about Willigut is that he is really perhaps the leading example of an occultist in the immediate circle and service of Reichsführer SS Heinrich Himmler.
Willigut believed he was a direct descendant of the Norse god Thor. Copies of his papers, found in Himmler's personal file, reveal that Willigut believed he possessed extrasensory powers. One document entitled The 9 Commandments of God was signed by Willigut and initialed by Himmler. Written in both modern German and the runic alphabet, it suggests that Willigut thought he was using his powers to rediscover the ancient rites and rituals of Germany's pagan past. According to Nordic legend, the runic alphabet used by Willigut was given to mankind by Odin, the supreme god in Norse mythology. This sacred alphabet was his gift to mankind.
The runes were derived probably from a mixture of ancient signs that are carved on stone in pre-literate times. And these alphabets actually had meanings. Each letter has a meaning.
The Hagal rune, protection of the bearer